The first rays of sunlight stretched over the rolling hills of the Mbarara Plains, casting a golden glow over the village. From a distance, the land seemed tranquil, almost untouched by the outside world. But deep within the heart of the community, whispers of rebellion stirred. For years, the villagers had endured oppression, and now a hidden army was quietly preparing to reclaim their freedom. At the center of this resistance was Kofi Mbe, a young warrior in his late 20s, with shoulders broad from years of labor and eyes sharp with determination. He moved silently through the village, communicating with his fellow fighters in subtle gestures. Every glance and nod carried strategy, a plan to defend their home against the colonial forces who had long exploited their land and its people. Beside him was Amara, his younger sister, whose strength was as visible as her grace. Though just in her early 20s, her resolve carried the weight of generations. Dressed in practical yet modern attire, tailored trousers and a fitted shirt, she symbolized the balance between tradition and the present. Amara had joined the resistance not only to fight, but to protect the children and elders who remained unaware of the danger that hovered at their doorstep. The hidden army was made up of ordinary villagers, farmers who knew every trail and creek, teachers who taught their tactics in secret, and craftsmen who forged tools and weapons. They had no sophisticated weapons, only sharpened spears, bows, and a fierce determination to fight for their land. What they lacked in equipment, they made up for in cunning strategy, unity, and an intimate knowledge of the terrain. That night, under the cloak of darkness, the army gathered near the edge of the forest. Fires flickered, casting moving shadows across determined faces. Kofi addressed the group, his voice calm but firm. "Tonight, we fight not just for survival, but for every breath of freedom our people deserve. Stick to the plan, trust each other, and remember, courage is our weapon." As the soldiers dispersed into the darkness, Amara took her place near the village perimeter, scanning for signs of the colonial patrols. Her heartbeat was steady, but her mind raced. Each movement could mean life or death. Every sound, a cracking branch, a rustling leaf, heightened the suspense. The first clash came suddenly. A patrol had unknowingly entered the trap the hidden army had set. Kofi's team struck with precision, using the forest as cover. Arrows flew silently, and spears pierced through the shadows. The invaders, confident and heavily armed, were caught off guard by the villagers' strategy and intimate knowledge of the land. Amara moved swiftly through the chaos, helping the wounded, signaling reinforcements, and ensuring the civilians remained hidden. Her courage inspired others. Even those who had never held a weapon before now stood firm, defending their home. The night sky burned with fire, reflecting the resolve of a people who had been underestimated for too long. By dawn, the first victory was claimed. The patrol had been defeated, leaving the hidden army in control of their village once more. Word began to spread silently through neighboring communities. A small, hidden army had defied a powerful oppressor. This success ignited hope far beyond the borders of Mbarara. However, victory came with a heavy price. Some fighters had fallen, and the grief was felt across the village. Kofi knelt beside a fallen friend, his fingers tracing the outline of the spear that had once belonged to him. The loss was a stark reminder that freedom was not free. It came with sacrifices that would echo through generations. The following days were a mixture of preparation and strategy. The hidden army knew the colonial forces would retaliate. Each morning, scouts surveyed the land, marking trails, rivers, and potential ambush sites. Nightfall brought more meetings, more plans, and whispers of courage exchanged under the starry African sky. Amara, sitting by the riverbank, reflected on the journey ahead. She thought about her ancestors, the stories of warriors who had fought with courage and wisdom. She knew that the hidden army was not just fighting for land, but for dignity, identity, and the hope of a free future. Her resolve strengthened with each heartbeat. She understood that this fight would define not just her generation, but the legacy of those yet to come. The turning point came when a messenger arrived from a neighboring village. They had witnessed the bravery of Kofi's army and wished to join the rebellion. This alliance brought not just numbers, but knowledge, a secret trail that could flank the enemy and give the hidden army a strategic advantage. For the first time, Kofi and Amara saw the tangible possibility of winning not just skirmishes, but the war for freedom itself. In the evenings, the village children would peek from behind curtains, watching the warriors practice silently. Their curiosity was laced with fear, but also admiration. They did not yet understand the full scale of the danger, but they sensed the bravery in the eyes of those who had taken a stand. As the sun set over the hills, painting the sky in fiery reds and oranges, Kofi and Amara climbed the ridge overlooking their village. The wind rustled through the tall grass, carrying with it a sense of triumph, but also a reminder of the battle still to come. They had won a battle, but the war for true freedom had just begun. Amara whispered to Kofi, "We've shown them that courage cannot be bought or stolen, and as long as we stand together, our land will never fall." Kofi nodded, eyes scanning the horizon. The hidden army below them represented more than just warriors. It embodied hope, unity, and the relentless spirit of a people determined to reclaim their destiny. The night settled over Mbarara, calm on the surface but alive with the promise of resistance. Fires smoldered, plans were made, and hearts prepared for the battles ahead. And though the future was uncertain, one truth remained clear. They had fought back, and their courage had already begun to change the fate of their land. The sun rose, painting the hills of Mbarara in shades of gold and crimson. The villagers awoke with cautious optimism. The previous night had proven their power, but danger still lurked. Kofi and Amara gathered the army at the edge of the forest, their faces marked with determination and exhaustion. Every eye in the crowd reflected one unspoken truth: the fight was far from over. Colonial forces had begun to mobilize. Rumors spoke of reinforcements from distant towns, heavily armed and relentless. But the hidden army was no longer just a small group of villagers. It had grown into a symbol of hope. Farmers became scouts, teachers became strategists, and women like Amara organized communications and supply lines. Every member played a role in the intricate dance of resistance. Kofi called the leaders together. "They think they can crush us with numbers and weapons," he said, his voice steady despite the tension. "But they do not know our land, nor our resolve. Tonight, we strike before they even reach the hills." As the evening descended, shadows deepened. Amara moved through the camp, checking every soldier, ensuring spears were sharp and morale high. Her presence was calming, yet electrifying. The villagers drew courage simply by seeing her unwavering focus. The attack began with stealth. Using hidden paths through the forest, Kofi's army ambushed the colonial scouts, cutting off reinforcements before they could coordinate. Every strike was precise, each maneuver deliberate. The invaders, accustomed to conventional warfare, were disoriented and confused by the guerrilla tactics. The battle grew fiercer as the night progressed. Fires illuminated the chaos, and the sound of arrows, spears, and shouted commands echoed across the hills. Yet in the midst of conflict, moments of heroism shone. A young boy, barely 15, risked his life to deliver a message between squads. A woman shielded an injured fighter while guiding others to safety. Each act of courage added to the legend of the hidden army. Amara found herself face to face with an officer attempting to flank their position. Without hesitation, she feigned retreat, leading him into a trap carefully set by Kofi's team. When the officer realized the ambush, it was too late. The hidden army had turned what seemed like vulnerability into a decisive victory. By dawn, the battlefield was quiet. The enemy had retreated, leaving the villagers triumphant but weary. Kofi stood on a ridge, overlooking the land they had fought for, a smile of grim satisfaction on his face. Amara joined him, her eyes reflecting relief and pride. "This victory," she whispered, "is only the beginning. They will return, and next time they will come stronger." Kofi nodded. "Then we will be ready. We fight not just for ourselves, but for every generation to come." News of the Hidden Army's victories spread far and wide. Neighboring villages, inspired by their bravery, began to organize, uniting under the same cause. The Hidden Army was no longer just a secret. It had become a movement. Months passed, and each battle taught them new lessons. They became experts in strategy, improvisation, and leadership. The villagers' lives were transformed, ordinary people now heroes, their courage woven into the fabric of history. Amidst all this, Kofi and Amara never lost sight of the moral of their struggle. They fought not out of hatred, but out of love for their people, their land, and the hope of freedom. And while victory was important, the unity and resilience of the community became their true triumph. The final battle came as the colonial forces attempted a massive offensive. This time, the army was prepared. Every strategy, every trap, every lesson learned was applied with precision. The battle raged from the forest to the hills, but the Hidden Army, now a formidable force, held their ground. When the dust settled, it was clear. The invaders had been defeated decisively. Villagers cheered, tears streaming down their faces as they celebrated not just the victory, but the survival of their culture, their land, and their identity. Kofi and Amara stood together, looking out over their home. The sun set, casting a warm glow across the hills. The Hidden Army had changed the fate of their land, proving that courage, unity, and strategy could overcome even the mightiest of enemies. Amara turned to Kofi. "This is our story," she said softly. "One that will be told for generations." Kofi nodded. "And every child who hears it will know that even the smallest of us can rise to protect what is ours. Courage lives here." The night fell peacefully over Mbarara. Fires burned softly, children slept soundly, and the village thrummed with a quiet triumph. The Hidden Army, once unknown, had become the legend of the land, a story of hope, resistance, and the unstoppable spirit of a people determined to shape their destiny.